Hello, and welcome to But Are There Dragons, a podcast where two friends pick a book at least one of them hasn't read and talk about it. I'm your host, Jess.
And I'm your host, Kritter.
And we are back to discuss the second half of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, chapters 20 through 39. Hi, Kritter.
Hi, Jessica. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was glad that we got a chance to dig in and finish this book, and I'm ready to talk about it.
I'm ready to talk about it too. I don't know about how you're doing this, but because whenever we did Lord of the Rings in our previous seasons, I was taking, I wrote a extensive outline, questions I wanted to ask you because I was the veteran, right? And I had read it before and I wanted to really dig into the details. And since I'm not doing that this time, and because I'm a first-time reader, I literally am just listening to the sections, just like straight through, no stops. I might take occasional notes, and then I have just listened to it again. So I've technically read Fourth Wing twice now in the last month because I've listened to both sections twice.
I'm not surprised, honestly.
Because I just forget. Literally reading it the second time, I was like, oh yeah. And I literally read it a week ago, so that's kind of embarrassing. But how are you doing this? What's your process?
I'm doing something similar. I also did some rereading along the way. I am not taking copious notes because I'm not the vet in this. And I was honestly, for all of our podcast family, she's not exaggerating. The notes that she took in our drive are extensive and intimidating. And that's just not how we're doing Fourth Wing this time. We get the benefit, the joy of both coming to it as first timers. So I am going through and I am just reading it at nighttime now that we're back from our trips. And highlighting as I go. And the only thing that I'm doing differently is I did find a website that has some chapter summaries. And so I've been pulling those as my refresher. So I've done a little bit of reread and a little bit of refresher with the chapter summaries as I just pull my top 5 moments and, oh yeah, I really liked that. And, oh, that was so we're kind of doing similar refreshes, just using different techniques.
Okay. I'm so glad that you reminded me that we do a top 5 moments thing. It'll be fine. I will be.
If only I'd done it before we hit play.
Good thing I read it twice, so I should be able to. And honestly, I did take little baby notes in my notes app, so I'll be able to be like, there are some things that I was like, I liked this. I'll use those as my top things. It'll be perfect. Yeah. So let's dig into this book, shall we?
Yes.
All right. So let's overall impressions now that the book is done. Okay. Generally speaking, how do you feel?
Okay. Generally speaking, I feel like this is a real middle of the road read for me. And I don't want that to sound overly critical. There are some things that I really liked about the story and kept me coming back for more, obviously, because we devoured it, each of us in our own ways.
Yeah.
And there were definitely some payoffs that we got to go with that. I'm sure we're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail because I'm thinking of some of our predictions and how some of those things played out.
Oh, yeah, me too.
There are things about the style of writing that are not my fave, that do kind of take me out of the moment here and there. And we touched on them a little bit last episode, and that was still true for me for the back half of the book.
Do you have an example? Not to put you on the spot or anything, but what do you mean?
Usually it's when Violet is having racy thoughts and it distracts her from whatever else is going on. And I find the way that Rebecca Yarros is writing that to be distracting in and of itself. And I think we talked about last time how I kind of viewed it as it was a juvenile inner monologue. It was just kind of a younger voice.
Yeah.
And there are times where that's okay and it kind of rolls. And there are just other times where it, kind of pulls me out of the moment. I feel like even with Tolkien, that when we first started reading, I was having trouble dealing with the narrator inserting himself. And so this is just a little bit different version of that.
Yeah. Okay. I actually have a quote here in my notes, and pardon the explicit nature of this upcoming quote, but it is from the inner monologue of Violet, so I assume this is part of what you're talking about. But in quotes, she said, "Holy fucking hot."
Yes, that is one. I'm looking to see if I have any highlighted.
Yeah.
I have to go back, but
Oh,
yes,
I've got
those
more.
were
I've
the
got more.
moments.
There's another what I assume is, what's the word for it? Double entendre? I'm not sure, but anyways, it's whenever Zayden takes his shirt off and they're sparring in the sparring gym, and she says he has the largest signet she's ever seen. And that just made me immediately head in the gutter, which was amazing. And then during her inner monologue, she says, "And that sculpted ass." And I don't know if it's like how the audiobook narrator is narrating it, but I feel like there's really no good, like, compelling way to say, "And that sculpted ass."
Oh, you know what? That brings a whole nother level to it. So I am the narrator, right? Maybe that's why I have such an issue with it.
And I have a similar issue.
Okay. I just had a moment where I was like, I'm reading this, and I think that it takes me out because I'm reading this, and to a certain extent, it's always going to be my voice. And maybe that's part of it. But yes, things like that, that's a perfect example of the kind of thing that takes me out. She is, lined up for battle brief, and she is thinking about sex, which, she's an impetuous 20-year-old, and sometimes those thoughts are distracting for sure. However they're coming across on the page, though, they're just kind of taking me out just a little bit.
No, I'm right there with you. And this kind of brings us back to our conversation that we had in the first episode, which I think we can revisit now, is how we classified this book, right? I said YA because there hadn't been a sex scene yet, and it to me read very juvenile. I maintain that position. If you took away the explicit scenes and some of the more explicit dirty talk, 1,000% to me it is YA. The main protagonist is childish. I mean, like, she's giving high school girl, right? Even if she's supposed to be like 20. Honestly, in my head, she's 19. I don't know. Is she 20?
I think she has a birthday. I wasn't paying that close of attention.
Okay.
She's not a minor.
Thank God. But like, yeah, 19 or 20, and she's just so laser focused on, like, she reads sometime as like a dog in heat, and to me that reads high schooler. But that's just where I'm at. And again, like, I have this idea in my head, is if I ever become an author, which we'll see. I would love to. It's actually been my dream my whole life, but have I written anything recently? No. But anyways, my thing is, romantasy is such a huge genre, but I am a high fantasy girly, right? I'm not really romantasy girly, but it could be fun if you wanted to write and then have the option for people to, like, oh, but I'm romantasy. You can make it romantasy by having like an appendices. So like the book is like
bonus content.
So you read the book and then there's like an asterisk or like a footnote 1. If you would like an explicit scene, please proceed to appendix 1.2. You know what I mean? Like, so think about, like, I'm gonna patent that. If you use that idea,
I think
I'm coming
you should.
for you.
I would love that, because sometimes I just don't need it. But sometimes
Why
the
not?
racy stuff is fun.
And honestly, like, depending on your mood, go straight to the racy stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm
not here to yuck anybody else's yum.
Exactly. So I'm still at the YA, except the explicit scene. Like, I wouldn't put it in a YA section in the bookstore, but only because of the explicit scenes. And I think for any adult reading this is going to read in some ways juvenile. Personally, where are you at? Do you still think it's not YA?
So I think that I had shied away from the YA classification because I think of YA as like a cutoff at 18, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that was an arbitrary thing that I created in my head. Those kinds of things happen all the time.
Sure.
But I was like, they're not in middle school or high school, so that was why I was departing from the YA criteria. But I agree with you that the voice of the writing overall is very young and immature.
Feels high school.
Feels very high school. I actually had this conversation with Mr. Jessica the other day, and he's like, he was kind of asking me, what I think. And I was saying, she's very young. And he's like, does that bother you? And I said, it just really shows, and so I've had this experience returning to Wheel of Time. I've had this experience reading through Lord of the Rings. As an adult reader now in my late 40s, I can't help but notice how much my perspective impacts what I'm reading about the other character and how I feel about them. And the age gap that I have with the protagonist is very pronounced with Violet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same. You and I are not the same age.
And your age gap is not as big as mine.
It's smaller, but it's still the same. And granted, I'm in like a whole different
phase of life
than she is. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. Like, never in my life would I put it in the YA section again, because I'm not going to be like, yes, high schoolers, go read this explicit content.
Right.
But at the same time, like, depending on your parenting style or whatever, like, I could see high school people enjoying this, basically.
So I think, to answer your question, I do think this lives squarely in the romantasy category.
100%. Yeah.
And I didn't know that's neither a plus or minus, but I think that from an accuracy standpoint, I think that's where I'd have to bin it. Like, this is the category that it would go in the library. Some of the explicit stuff is pretty explicit. And so that would be the only like heads up. If I were going to recommend it to a girlfriend, I'd still go back to the things that we talked about in the first episode, that I would definitely classify this as an easy beach read, like and there were definitely things that kept me coming back for more. The stakes were there, and I wanted to know. They're just, I think the overall voice of the book is a little young for me, and I think that's really possibly a me problem.
Yeah. I mean, again, I say all these things that's like juvenile, whatever. I, once again, had a lot of fun reading it. And I actually, in my head, like last time I likened this book to McDonald's, and I likened it to The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. This time I'm going to liken it to Twilight. And there are multiple reasons for that. One is just how I felt when I was reading it, right? Which was not overwhelmed with the quality of the work, but entertained as hell, right? Entertained regardless. Number two, there is a particular scene that I will recite to you. Not recite, I don't have it like word for word, but a scene in which they were, I believe, in battle brief, and Violet drops her pen and Xaden levitates it back up to her with his shadow powers. It reminded me so much of the apple scene in Twilight. I think that was maybe only in the movie, or maybe it was in the book too. Whatever, doesn't matter. That moment solidified these books for me as on the same level as Twilight, which made so much sense because of how popular they are, right? I inhaled Twilight whenever I was in high school and college, and I went to the midnight premieres of the movies. Like, I was in for Twilight, and so I understand the fervor surrounding this book because the vibes are the same. So yeah, that's my official analysis. That's the closest I can get, which we've got a love triangle, we've got the whole nine. And
no, Twilight is exactly where I was at with it too. And honestly, again, I'm a little bit older than you, so Twilight was like a guilty pleasure read, a thing that I was reading that I didn't want people to know I was reading, because I already felt like a little too old to be reading these books.
Right.
And I read them anyways. So,
whereas I believe I'm about the same age as Robert Pattinson. I actually don't know how old he is, but I'm pretty sure that's true. And I had a poster of him and Kristen Stewart on, like, above my bed in college, in my dorm room.
You were the target demographic for sure.
I really was.
I was older. I'm just going to smuggle this book in. Actually, that's about the time I started finding ebook readers, and so nobody could see what was on my Kindle, and that was really nice.
That's perfect. Okay, so yeah, I feel like we've gotten that covered now. We've got the tone. Again, it sounds like we both had fun reading it, even if we both agree that it's not like mind-blowing prose.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, good. So I guess I really want to just all of a sudden brag. Okay, are you ready for
Okay,
this?
I'm
So
ready.
in the book, in this section, at one point, she said, his father put an arrow in Brennan's chest, according to battlefield reports. The moment she said that, I was like, oh, the only way you knew that is because of battlefield reports? That's interesting. So you didn't see the hole
I
in him?
highlighted that. I highlighted it. And when I saw it today when I was scrolling through, I instantly thought of you.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, I love being right, everyone. And if you'll recall, in our last episode featuring the first half of this book, I just kind of predicted, I knew somehow that Brennan was still alive. And obviously, this is a spoiler for the very, very end of the book, but by golly, he is. And remember when I was like, I bet he joined the rebellion?
Heck yeah.
By golly, he did.
Right out of the park. Kritter hits it right out of the park. The crowd goes wild. I loved it. I was so stoked for you.
Thank you.
As soon as that last little bit, that last chapter switches to Zayden's voice. But as the end of chapter 38, she passes out hearing a familiar voice. I'm like, this is it. This is Kritter's moment. Here it comes.
And they were like, we have to get her to him. And I literally was like, pause, who's him?
I actually went, it better be. I just said it better be. Or
and
else.
It was. And it was. So
which is amazing.
Now we get to meet Brennan. Or we got to meet Brennan ever so briefly. So
for half a second.
Did you, by the way, I don't know if this is the same for you, but on audiobook, there's bonus content. There's a couple more Zayden POV scenes.
No.
Oh, okay. So that's another thing that reminds me of Twilight, because Stephanie Meyer wrote Midnight Sun, which is Twilight from Edward's perspective, right? So there were a couple of bonus scenes from Zayden's perspective. One of which was the knife, the scene where Violet's sparring partner got sick early or whatever, and Zayden volunteered to fight her. Like, we got that scene from his perspective also.
Oh.
And then there was one more, and I can't remember what it was, which makes me embarrassed. But
that makes me sad.
Yeah, I can't remember which scene it was now. Because I didn't reread that one. I ran out of time. But yeah, so that exists. It was interesting. It's in the audiobook narrator too changed for that. So like they had a woman the whole time. And then for the final chapter that was from Zayden's perspective, and those other ones, it had a dude. And that guy's voice, it just, I don't know why, but it kind of bothered me. Because it was like, it kind of just reminded me of like the guy that you would cast as the villain in like a high school football TV show, where he's like kind of a douche, whatever. So it was like
arrogant.
Yeah, but like obviously Zayden's supposed to kind of be arrogant, so I guess that works. But I don't know. I don't know how I would have cast his voice, but that one was just kind of, it was just like, okay, and then Violet is just the hottest babe ever. And just, I don't know. It was just
okay,
not my favorite. So if you have the audiobooks and you listen to those chapters, please let me know if I'm alone or if you really like that narrator. And if you did, power to you.
And tell me what the other scene is that I'm missing out on.
I think it might be Threshing. Now that I'm thinking of it, I think it might be Threshing, where Violet's taking on the three guys, but I really would have to look. I truly can't remember.
I'm pretty sure that when the book ended for me, it went straight to acknowledgements, but I'll go back and look and see if there's something in writing that I missed.
It might have been just an audiobook thing.
It might have been.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was so pumped for you, for Brennan, for that prediction, and that it was the book cliffhanger, right? Like I thought that it was like a double slam dunk, whatever the equivalent would be. I don't sports. But it was so awesome. Whatever. I don't basketball. Well, I should say I don't know basketball terms.
That's fair.
But it was a 2-for-1 for you, because it was not only a killer prediction from 1,000 yards off, but it was also the book cliffhanger. So that was wonderful. I felt vindicated in my prediction that Zayden had been into her basically from the beginning. I felt very justified and vindicated in that.
As you should have.
And also that there was sketchy stuff going on. Like, this does not, that I I'm not an anti-establishment person, but it seems like everything isn't as the Navarians are painting it, and oh boy, is that
So
very true.
So true.
And I think I also went on the record and said I think that the Book of Fairy Tales is going to be relevant.
And there it was.
And there it was. So I was like, I love being right almost as much as you do, maybe even a little bit more.
Maybe we're tied.
So,
I'll allow it that we're tied.
yeah, because yours was stellar. Like, yours was a primo pull.
I feel so good about it. Speaking of, like, not seeing a body and not believing it, did you have the instinct of when Jack Barlow died? My instinct was, no body. I'm not 100% convinced.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Violet's like, there's no way he survived that. And then we didn't hear anything else besides, like, what was it? Her dragon be like, oh, his dragon.
Nobody can hear his voice anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean? What?
His dragon couldn't hear him anymore.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that line. I was thinking.
Now I'm second guessing myself.
But it was something comment to the Tairn said something along the lines of his dragon will pick another rider when he or she is ready. And to me that like implied like, okay, so Tairn knows that the dragon is mourning for sure, right? But I don't actually know that, right? So
we don't.
I mean, it seems like he's like how wild and like soap opera,
didn't he?
How soap opera would it be if he shows up like in book 3?
It would be.
I think he was, the primary villain, other than obviously like the Venom for this book. And seeing him die was very satisfying.
Yeah.
So speaking of, how do you feel about Violet's signet power?
I love it. Lightning power is super awesome. I do love the fact that she did not immediately get the skill of aiming.
Yeah. That was refreshing. That she's not just like Mary Suing all over the place. Yeah,
she wasn't just crushing it right out the gate. No.
Right.
Yeah. I do think that when it came to the big fight with the Venom, she was very OP. Like it felt as though she was, and I understand, and you will know that my background with Wheel of Time, I'm like, she's going to burn herself out, whatever this world's equivalent is of burning herself out. Like she is flinging lightning left and right. So
yeah,
that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
That part there. Yeah, but I loved the fact that it was lightning. I also liked the fact there was a brief nod in there for a second that she was a little upset that, her power, it can only be used in war. Like her power isn't good for anything other than warfare. And it was just a little thing, but I thought that it was a good nod to the nature of powers and how they're really kind of arbitrary in this world and you never know what you're going to get. And that's a perspective, that she can't use it for anything other than death and murder and war. Like that's all she can use it for.
I feel like we'll come to find another way for her to use it, right? Because that Venom said like you have the power to control the skies and all that, and I refuse to believe that if you define it that way, if it's not just lightning but it's power to control the skies, that there's going to be some kind of method.
If her lightning powers the wards, that would be cool,
right? Like there's going to be some way that because not like she mentioned in the book that it made sense to her why people's signets were people's signets, right? Not Dave. Dane. Dave. Let's call him Dave from now on.
Dragon Rider Dave.
Okay, so Dave, he needs to know everything. He's a little nosy pants, and that's why he has his power. And Xaden is like, he's a mysterious person, so he's a shadow wielder. It's just like she said, oh my gosh, everybody's signet makes so much sense now that I think about it. And then hers is this massively destructive thing, and I just thought, why? Like, if that's true, she doesn't strike me as a massively destructive person, so what's the connection? And I feel like we're going to find out what that connection is.
So she's like the first pokey revolution of herself right now. And that as she grows into this power, she'll have more control and she'll go Super Saiyan at some point. That's why I'm saying, like, if she docks into the wards
Yeah.
somehow, they have this ward. Yeah. Like, I don't know, maybe
I think it could work. I think
put the
it's
pieces
going to be
together.
more than destructive. That's
So
my...
since you brought up Dragon Rider, Dave,
Yeah.
let's talk about taking somebody's memories without consent.
Boo.
Wow.
Boo. So on my recent reread, I was literally listening to it at 2x speed today. There's a scene that came up where he put his hand on her cheek. That wasn't the scene where he read her memories. It was actually the day after, or like sometime after, they kissed. And so I was like, okay, well, if he read her memories there, he would be so pissed off. So clearly he didn't do it every time he touched her.
Yeah.
But still horrible. And the way she was like, oh yeah, that's how he always touches me later. I was like, really? That's a weird, like, cupping somebody's face is kind of an intimate way to touch. But then upon reread, he had done it before, so okay, point taken. But yeah, what an asshole. Holy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't have much use for Dane.
Yeah, sorry. I was expecting you to say Dave.
Him either. I don't like either of them.
Yeah, that guy can go to hell, like straight to hell. Also, speaking of names, the wing leader who got executed,
Amber.
I wasn't reading, and so the audiobook narrator, the way that she said Amber's dragon's name was Clyde.
Oh, okay.
Clyde. So I was like,
okay.
Clyde the dragon?
It's spelt Claidh.
So probably Clyde, yeah.
I've been saying Claude.
Oh, that's way
like
cooler sounding.
Claude. Like, I've been just making it up. Also some of these I don't even try to pronounce in my head. I just skip over them.
Oh, see, I have the benefit of the audiobook, so I don't have to worry about it. But then when they say Clyde let out a roar, a little taken out of it.
This is my dragon Humperdinck.
This is my dragon Frank. Sorry.
Rupert, where are you?
Dragon. So that made me laugh. I thought it was funny. Okay, so okay, another scene that I thought of, speaking of people that we hate, her mom at the, like, several times we saw her mom, at least a couple. Anyways, one of the times her mom was like, oh, you haven't manifested your signet yet? Or like, you haven't, that's, so it reminded me of, I liken it also to the Harry Potter book. I think it's the 5th one or the 6th one where Dumbledore's ignoring Harry. I'm not going to spoil anything more than that, other than that Dumbledore's ignoring Harry just like constantly, but we find out later, mild Harry Potter spoilers, that it was because he thought that he was putting Harry in harm's way by like paying attention to him. And so that made me wonder, like, is her mom being this way because she's horrible, which I'm leaning towards, or is there something else? Is she trying to keep Violet like out of the limelight?
So, like, what I was saying, like, she has a reason, she knows something.
Yeah.
I hope so, because I am less convinced that the mom has a past somewhere coming. So when I found out that the daggers that kill the Venom are just like the dagger that mom has on her desk, Mom is almost irredeemable for me at this point. Like, I read that and I saw red. And again, I think it might be I have a child who is actually a little bit older than Violet. So, like, as a mom, I'm just like, I'm going to need you to have a reason for being this terrible of a human being. I'm going to need you to have something going on that I don't know about.
Yeah, and I don't know how being a parent changes over time, right? Like, right now, because I have, like, a 9-month-old baby, he is precious to me. You know what I mean? Like, I love him more than life itself. And so, like, literally, I could not imagine being cruel to him for a second. And so the fact that this is happening is just like, I can't relate. It feels unreal. It feels unreal. So I understand that not everybody has perfect parents. Far from it. a lot of people have horrible parents, and so the more I read this book, the more I'm thinking, please God, let there be a reason that she's acting like this, because otherwise, oh my God, she's like not S tier, F tier parent. Like, not a fan.
Yeah, I have a really hard time with it. The only thing that I can tell you is that I tell my now grown child that he is like the physical manifestation of my heart walking around outside of my body. And I now have the added discomfort of he can make his own choices and put himself in harm's way, you know? So that's the only difference is your baby dragon is still somewhat containable. Mine's out there. Mine's out there flying free.
Can't imagine the stress, but yeah, same. That's exactly how I feel.
Future you will be prepared and armed for that. Today is not the day that you have to know how to do that. But it's super hard. And I'm paraphrasing, but when it ever says it's just like the dagger on mom's desk, and I was like, no,
excuse me,
I would march into this woman's office.
Literally. Well, also, and it seems clear to me, at least unless they're pulling a fast one on Violet, that Mira doesn't know about it either, right? Because if she knew about it, she wouldn't have told Violet about the dragons that she thought she saw on the other side of the wards, right? Because she would know what they are if she was in on it.
I think if she were in on it, she would know that Brennan is alive and that everything would be really different. So I don't think she's in on the rebellion piece. I'm unclear if she knows that Venom exists. I don't think so.
See, I would think not, because, as I said, like, if she knew that Venom existed, then she would probably know that Wyvern existed, because, like, they're an extension.
Yeah.
And the fact that she saw the dragons across the wards, like, she would have said, probably, like, she would have either kept it from Violet because everybody's keeping that from Violet, or she would have said, I've seen Wyvern, not I think I saw dragons. I don't know. I think she's in the dark, if I had to make a prediction.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I tried to kind of separate those in my mind. Like, I feel as though, I feel like if Mira knew about Brennan, everything would be different. I don't think that her reaction with her actions and reactions with Violet would be the same. I honestly think there's no way she could know that Brennan's alive. So
do you think the mom knows that Brennan's alive?
That's what I'm like, if you know that he's alive, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a past that's big enough that would make what she has done to this point okay. And I'm having a really hard time encompassing anything in my brain that makes it okay, because what I've seen so far has not been okay.
Yeah, I would like to think the mom doesn't know Brennan's alive, because letting her whole family believe it, like, and knowing it's not true, because apparently it hit her dad really hard too, like Violet's mom's husband. If she knows, there's no coming back. That's just too wrong. Too wrong, too bad. You're officially the bad guy now.
So this is going to have to be a Raffo, and I know that, but this back half of the book wasn't any better than the first half in terms of General Soren Gale's moral outcome, I guess. I don't even know how to categorize it. Like, it'll take a lot for her to be redeemed.
I completely agree. Okay, so let's put a pin in that. I have a note that I had to bring up. We talked a little bit about the writing style, and I have to bring this up because I want to say I said something about this last time, but I honestly can't remember, so maybe I didn't. I know I brought up the fact that when Violet saw Xaden for the first time, she went on and on about his appearance, and then crafting him, and they spent an entire year on his mouth. And I thought it was funny that she used the word mouth, right? Because it's so odd. Like, it's not. It doesn't give romance novel to me. The word mouth. You think that they would use the word lips, but they didn't. They kept doing it. She kept doing it. She used the word mouth instead of lips, and I swear, like 1,000 places. I want to say she used the word lips one time, because I noticed it on my reread. I was like, oh my god. she's heard the word lips before. Like literally, I was laughing about this at trivia the other night because I was like explaining that I'm reading this book and that I'm enjoying it, but that I've got some complaints about the prose or whatever, and I gave that as an example how she uses mouth instead of lips constantly. And my cousin was literally like, so you're reading this book and you're just picturing like it's the way he did it. He like,
oh God,
sucked his lips in. So it was like kind of like Turtle. Like, have you seen the oh my God, what is the one with like the oh my gosh, there's a movie where I can't remember his name, but he's playing this turtle spy. Gosh, this is going to be a real problem for me. I'm going to have to look it up. Sorry. I want to say his name is Danny or Carrie. What the heck? Turtle. And he goes, turtle. Please help me. No, nobody. Turtle. Spy.
Sorry, you got me at a total disadvantage. I don't know what this is.
The Master of Disguise.
I have never seen it.
It's the Master of Disguise. So anyways, if you can picture, if you're not watching this on YouTube and you're listening on the podcast, I have to find it. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube so you can see who I'm talking about. But it's, the heck is this guy's name? Dana Carvey. Carvey dresses up as a turtle as the Master of Disguise. And anyway, so he like sucks his lips in so you can't see them. And so, yes, my cousin is sitting there, like, with his lips sucked in, being like, you're picturing these these intimate scenes with these people, and they don't have any actual lips.
Oh, my
so
gosh.
That kept taking me out of it. Sorry, that has been, like, the longest way for me to say that is one way that I got sucked out of the book every single time they used the word mouth, because they used it a lot.
Yeah. And so we definitely got to explicit content.
We did. Yes. Yes, we did. You and I, neither of us read a ton of romance. Have you read much romance?
I've read a couple here and there.
Okay.
I'm like, I am not a fuddy-duddy, right? Like, I am not a prude by nature.
Yeah, same.
I think that was the conversation, though, that I was having with Mr. Jessica. He's like, what really bothers you? I'm like, because at times I was like, the explicit content it's not even the nature of what they're describing or that it's racy. It's just, sometimes I'm just like, oh, I probably didn't need all that.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel bad because I'm like, I'm really not a prude at heart. I don't mind. And he's like, so what is it? And I'm like, I think it's because she's so young. And it's like thinking about my kid having those experiences, not that he would, but like the age disconnect is big enough now that I'm like, this feels inappropriate.
That's fair. Honestly, when she, like, throughout the book before they did anything together, she kept, she's sexually frustrated, and Violet's like, I miss sex. And I'm like, how old? You're like 19. You're like, or 20. How much sex have you had, girlfriend? In my head, that's what I'm thinking. Because it's like, you're a little baby. Like, how are you so already just like, oh, I miss this thing that I realistically probably haven't actually done that much. I don't know. It's I think for me, it was less the explicit scenes, because finally, oh my gosh. Oh, I have to tell you this though. Okay, so I was listening to this book on vacation, and for some silly reason, we decided to drive to Minnesota from Missouri. And so it was 2 days broken up to like 6.5 hour drives apiece. And and I'm mainly riding in the backseat with Baby Dragon, but Mr. Kritter and I switch. And so he's in the back seat entertaining the Baby Dragon, and I'm in the front seat, and I have the book on low on the speakers, because you're not supposed to use headphones when you're driving. PSA. It's not safe. So anyway, so I'm listening, and wouldn't you know it, the first sex scene comes on while I'm listening to the damn book out loud in the car. And I will say that I blushed, not only because I was like, well, because Mr. Kritter knew what kind of a book it wasn't like a mystery about what I was reading. But I think it was just like, it felt so like cringe in some moments, like literally lightning strikes because she's orgasming. There's some things that I like. I laughed out loud when that happened because I thought it was such a cheeseball thing to happen.
Yeah.
I felt like I was embarrassed. But I will say that for their first kiss, I blushed in like a, like this is a little, I like this,
and
you know?
So, yeah, I felt the same, right? Like I was glad to have those physical moment payoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that part. It's just, I definitely have lived in a world where the sex happens off screen for a long time.
Yeah.
And part of that is the fact that I am drawn to more high fantasy, something that would be, probably characterized as high fantasy more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
And haven't done as much romantasy or romance reading.
Mm-hmm.
But I find, and I'm like, I promise I'm not a prude. And I'm like, how many times can I say that without, the lady doth protest too much? I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a lot. And like I said, once I talked to Mr. Jessica about it, he's like, what do you think it really is? I said, I really think it comes down to the age difference, and it makes me uncomfortable. It's a little voyeuristic, and it feels a little inappropriate, since in my mind I've squarely paired her off with like someone who is young enough to be my child.
Yeah, that's fair. I think another thing about their relationship is like, I liked it better when they were bantering back and forth about things that weren't constantly physical, right? Like, and again, I swear I'm not a prude, but like after they, I don't know if it was after they kissed, but like after they had sex for sure, like everything they said to each other was like, just wait till I get you out of your pants, or like, I'm gonna punish you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'll just like pull your pants down. Like everything they said was dirty talk. And to me, that's like, okay, like I understand wanting somebody, but my God, in public, when you're talking, like it's like they were sexting each other out loud for every conversation. And so for me, I was like, that feels so unrealistic. And I know I'm reading a book about talking dragons and magical powers, and it's not realistic. But you can make the relationships realistic, and it just didn't feel that way.
I feel like that's the crux of it, though, right? There were definitely things about their relationship and the physicality of it paying off that were great. And I was glad that we had. There are just times where it felt like too much, and it strained my experience for the rest of the story. Like, okay, great, you guys have finally gotten, you've gotten to the point where you've had sex and it changes your dynamic. Can you go back to having real conversations?
Let's talk like real humans. And what's funny is like, I kept thinking, gosh, does Xaden like literally only care about her appearance? Like, for example, towards the end of the book, a quote, I can't even begin to articulate what it is about the strands, her hair, that pushes me straight into need to fuck her now territory. Like,
yep,
her
that's one of the ones that put me right
hair, out. Like, he just has to, like, my dude, she's been in a coma for 3 days. Or whatever, or a week. I don't even know. She wakes up, takes a bath, comes out, and that's the first thing you're thinking. Like, it's wild. It just feels too lusty. It feels like
lusty. That's a very good word for it.
It feels like a 15-year-old boy who just discovered certain parts. Like that's anyways, that's how it kind of felt. Both of them were just incredibly lusty. And maybe,
so that being said, I did feel like they did a really good job. What she did do well, though, is turning that into the betrayal moment, right? So I did feel like that moment paid off very well.
Yeah.
So when I talk about, the range of experiences I had with the writing, when she realized what it was he was keeping from her, that betrayal moment was very well written, I feel like. And I felt like all of those stakes that had been, carefully laid for their relationship, for them finally trusting each other and, being honest and being open about having feelings about each other. And how that turned into the betrayal payoff, I thought she did very well with writing that.
Yeah, I can see now, what book 2 is going to be, which is him earning back her trust, essentially, right? Because it's like
one would have to think
that's going to be what's happening. Like, we all, I assume, know that he's going to in some way, and it feels like she's already kind of giving him like some grace when it comes to that. And I guess as readers, for me at least, I'm like, literally get over yourself. Like, why he was doing what he was doing. Like, you have a friend who can read minds. It makes sense that he did what he did. So I'm over here just basically telling her to get over it. You're so obsessed with this guy. He opened up to you. He brought you on this mission across the border. He was clearly going to share things with you. And just because it didn't work out exactly how he might have wanted it, now you're just punishing him forever, even though you agree with his cause.
And the fact that all of those other lives were in his hands.
Yeah.
The 107 mended marks on his body. And just...
So she made me mad there. She made me mad. Another way that she made me mad, which is not related to the betrayal, but is during the final battle, where I can't remember who was it. It was Liam who killed one of the Venin and the dragon died. And she saw it. And then later, I think Liam was like, kill the riders, kill the Venin. And she's like, I know, I'm totally going to kill the Venin. Absolutely. It's like she didn't realize what was happening for so long. Kill the damn Venin, and their dragons that they've created die. And you even said earlier, like, you understand that dragons channel their power into their riders, whereas Venin channel their power into to create Wyvern. And so Wyvern, like, logically, she's supposed to be the smart one. Like, think about, like, how did you not make that connection earlier in the battle, my dude?
Yeah.
So anyways, that made me mad during the battle. I was expecting her to realize it the moment that the Wyvern died after Liam killed the Venin, and she didn't. So I got a little annoyed about
that. I mean, since you brought up Liam, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So he's one of the characters that I definitely liked, that I felt like the author did a great job writing.
Me too.
And I was attached, and I was super sad to see him go.
I should have known. I feel like they have, what is the kill your darlings? Like, they have that trope or whatever it's called, writing tactic. And she just made him too perfect. He was so likable. But I think what it was during the war games or whatever, the first round of them, where Violet stopped time to save his life. I thought, okay, he's safe. Like, they're not going to do this again. And then they did it again with him. I was just, I don't know. She did a really good job tricking us into a false sense of security when it comes to Liam. And the fact that she ripped that safety net out from under us, I was a little pissed. Obviously I was sad more than pissed, but I'm mad that he's gone. He was really sweet.
Yeah. And the death scene was, it was a tearjerker for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm going to immediately pivot to, because I'm looking at the time. I have
smart.
I have a couple of moments that I loved that I wanted to share. I can't say top 5 anymore because I think I've already shared 2.
Okay.
So the first one, this is kind of weird. The one where Taryn kills Amber. I actually really liked that part, not because I'm bloodthirsty, but because it reminds us that these creatures are truly dangerous. Like, we have not seen a lot of people who have been truly injured or killed by dragons on the page.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Ooh, that's a good reminder that they're lethal."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think of, like, what we haven't talked about yet. Okay. So this isn't one of my favorite parts necessarily. Actually, no, it kind of is. Because it was satisfying. But whenever we found out that Jack was allergic to oranges or whatever, when he's like, get that shit away from me, immediately I was like, oh, she's going to poison him. Like, there's our solution. Great.
Yeah.
And then they end up fighting. He finally gets to challenge her and they fight, and then she wins and whatever. Like, that was pretty great. Although my one complaint is she kept like giving him little flesh wounds with her knife. I was expecting her to have like orange extract like on the knife blade. And I don't know if that would cause an allergic reaction in someone who's allergic to oranges, but that's what I expected it to be, because she kept like, she nicked him on the arm and then she nicked him on the side. And I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. She's going to like get him with poison by nicking him. And then that's not what it was. She just ended up shoving it in anyways. Yeah. But the fact that it worked out and she almost killed him, that was awesome. I love that, because I hate that guy.
I like the fact that she did get stronger with training, but she's still not like this unbeatable, like...
Yeah.
I do like that, because we're all living with the limitations of our bodies, and not everybody can be unstoppable or unbreakable. Like, not everybody gets that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that she's gotten stronger. And I've liked the team building aspect of her wingmates, like, helping her.
Yeah.
But that she's still not, invincible.
Yeah.
One of my other moments that I really loved is I really did love the saddle. I like
sweet.
I like the saddle as a gift. I like the saddle as an idea. I've honestly been like, because I'm used to Dragonlance, which is an old series that I grew up reading. It was actually one of my first fantasy book series that I read. I was like, why don't we have dragon saddles? Like, why is this not a thing? So when he presented her with a saddle, and that it includes an attachment for Andarna.
Very cute.
I loved that moment.
Yeah. So we've already talked about this moment briefly, but for me, it was their first kiss. It was like funny that she like wakes up basically in heat, and like that was a little bit of a cheese ball factor, but
yeah.
He teaches her how to ground in that moment. She's like really excited because she's actually exceptional at it. And oh my gosh, that's the other one we got from his perspective. Now that I'm thinking of it, I think we got that from his perspective, because I want to say he talks. No, maybe not. Maybe he just mentions that. But the fact that like at some point in the book, we realize that like when she was like so thrilled with herself that she did so well, he like loved that about her, like her like really triumphant smile and whatnot. So I felt like that was their cutest moment, / obviously it wasn't just cute, it was pretty lusty, but it was a nice moment. And I love the you build up the tension is building. It's like forever, will they, won't they, obviously they're going to, when is it going to be, all of that. And then that's when it happened. It was not, it was a fun thing. And the fact that she slipped in the thunder snow that turns out to actually have been Violet's signet was kind of a nice touch, because I did not clock it. I don't know if you did, but I did not clock it the first time. And then when we find out later, and then on my second read, it mentions that she feels like a surge when that happens. And I was like, how did I miss that? Like, obviously I guess I assumed it was just like emotion, or lust or whatever, but no, it was actually her power. So it was a good scene, I thought.
It was a good one. And then I had one other standout moment, which is kind of a small moment. It wasn't like a big story mover. When she's reunited with Mira, and Mira pushes her to hold on to her own identity so that she doesn't lose who she's going to be just because she's now head over heels over Xaden.
Yes.
Both Rhiannon and Mira make comments about how, sure, like he's the strongest rider right now. However, you have the potential to be a more powerful rider. And all I can think of is that TikTok sound, like he's literally just a boy.
Literally just a guy. That's perfect.
So I liked that. I like that, I like it when women have each other's backs.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Rhiannon has been a great friend to her, and her sister has done her a solid, and also has the benefit of a few more years as a dragon rider under her belt, and can be like, you still need to work on you as a rider. I don't care what all this is.
No, that was, I had forgotten about that moment. That was a really good moment. And that reminded me of another one, kind of completely unrelated, but I will say another favorite moment for me, just because it was fun. It was a good part of the story, was the twist that the war games weren't actually war games, like that Dave had read Violet's mind and sent them on this mission, or his dad presumably had sent them on this suicide mission, to test their loyalty, and then they all decided that they were going to help the town instead. That to me felt very fantasy, like more high fantasy. It's like, no, I've been trying to protect the 107 for this long, and this easy thing would be to go back and just continue these stupid war games, but the right thing is going to be sacrificing myself to save the city. And everyone agreed, and it was just like this awesome moment. I could see it in my mind's eye, the like opening of the envelope, the shocked face, that whole thing. I thought that was a good story element. So I'd say that was probably one of my faves. Yeah. Oh, and then of course the Brennan twist.
Yeah.
I mean, that was,
which never gets old.
Yeah, it's not gonna get old ever. So yeah. I guess, is it time to pick
I think
our
it's time
MVPs?
for an MVP. Yep.
Okay, so we have this tradition where we pick MVPs for every read that we have, and at the end of the book, we decide who the book MVP is. And it's wild that we could do that literally right now. What we did in the first one is we picked an MVP and a runner-up. Runner-up got 1, MVP got 2 points. So let's do this. Jessica, who do you have as your runner-up this episode?
Oh, God.
I have mine already, I think.
Oh, sweet Georgia Brown. I really think that my runner-up has to be Liam.
Okay.
It's almost a consolation prize, but he was such a good friend, and he was a great method for her to learn more about the rebellion kids and what their plot was, as well as the practical aspects of keeping her safe and being a good dude and helping her grow in her squad.
Yeah.
I think that he was a really solid wingman, and he will be missed.
He will be missed, and I'll just jump right in and say he was also my runner-up. So,
okay.
We're on the same page. Honestly, he was one of my favorite characters. It was wild to me when I started rereading that, like, we weren't really introduced to him until the second half of the book. Like, I think we might have heard that he was like the best in their year, but that was it. And then we meet this whole new character essentially and fall in love with him in half of the book. So, and then he got ripped out from us, which is really sad. But his little carvings, like, he was such a good friend. He went to the ball thing or whatever, the reunification celebration with Violet, even though he didn't have to. He was just a really good guy. And he was cute too. Like, after the reunification party when they're all gathering and he's like tucking in his shirt, she's like, "How was your night?" And he's like, "Pretty good." And he's blushing. He's just like a sweet guy, but then also an absolute badass. So I don't know. I liked him a lot.
Yeah. Which means I'm going to make you go first because you made me go first on runner-up.
Okay, I'll happily go first. And I'm happy to report that our protagonist, Violet, got my MVP this episode. Mainly because of what you said earlier, which is that in that final battle, despite her taking way too long to figure out that she needed to kill the venom in order to kill the wyvern, she was the MVP of that battle, I would say. And yeah, she was great. Also, just like all the work that she put in to get where she was, right? Like that countless hours of studying and the sparring and all that stuff. Like, she took her job very seriously, and I feel like she made the right choice, even though it went against her country or whatever. She still decided to protect innocent civilians, which she didn't have to, especially right after being betrayed or seemingly being betrayed by all the people around her. And I do think that at times she took, like, she was people were trying to like walk all over her. Like, Jack was trying to provoke her. Zayden's trying to do whatever he does. Dave is a piece of shit. Like, all these people are like trying to either protect her in a way that she doesn't want to be protected or whatever, and she always kind of tried to hold her own, which is part of the reason that she got her channeling powers, right? Like, she stood up for herself. She didn't lose her temper, all that stuff most of the time, and so I feel like she grew as a character and did a killer job in that battle and basically sacrificed herself. So yeah, MVP for me. What about you?
So I was gonna do Violet too.
That's great.
I mean,
Don't change your mind.
Yeah, for a lot of the reasons that you said. She is still very young, and that is not a crime. But at the end of the day, she is very smart, and she is used to having to problem solve in ways that, you can't blunt force trauma your way through things. She has to think about things. She has to do other things. I thought it was brilliant the way that she handled their first war game, where she came up with the idea to steal the map from her mom's office. Like, she is consistently thinking about things from a different angle. And I feel like, if anything, she grew into that more here. So all of the other things that I might sound like criticisms of her, she's done an incredible job, and she really showed up for the people in that village of Resin. And yeah, I think she really deserved it by the time the book was over.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess that makes our calculations easy, because no one got MVP twice, and Liam was our runner-up for both of our runner-up, which is funny. It's very uniform end. Yeah. But anyways, I guess that officially puts Violet as our MVP.
And I think that's the first time we've voted for the protagonist,
the primary
unanimously.
Protagonist. Yeah, I think it is. That's pretty wild. Because last episode, if you'll recall, my MVP was Xaden. My runner-up was Mira. Your MVP was Rhiannon, and your runner-up was Xaden, wasn't it?
I think so.
Okay, so Xaden, I guess, is just behind Violet, which is appropriate, with 3 points. So yeah, that makes sense. Violet is our MVP, and Xaden is our runner-up, as it should be.
Yes, 100%.
It should be. Okay.
So that brings us to the real question.
Mm-hmm.
Kritter.
Yes.
Are we going to keep reading the Fourth Wing series?
Well, there's a lot that goes into that question. I'm of 2 minds. One of my minds says, I am personally going to keep reading, because it is a fast, easy read. I want to know what happens, and I'm having a good time with it. Also, it's really popular, and I have to know, like, why people are so into it, other than the fact that I think I figured it out, and that it's basically Twilight. On the other hand, as we've mentioned, the age gap between us and the protagonist and the genre itself is not as, like, in our wheelhouse as we might normally go.
Not our
first choice as far as our wheelhouse and what we might read. So yeah, I as I said, I'm going to read it no matter what, and so I would be happy to continue, but also I don't have to continue doing it on the podcast. How are you feeling?
I am a lot of the same, not to bore our fans, but I'm a lot of the same. I do want to keep reading, because there's enough payoff with the things that I care about, and it is such an easy, pleasant read that I probably will keep going. But I'm also like, is this really podcast worthy material? So I think that the thing that makes the very most sense is that we give the But Are There Dragons family a voice and help us choose whether this is something that they want us to continue to do on the podcast, or if they'd like to see us go to a different IP. Because the alternative is if you and I have both said, like, we're going to continue to read this, then we stuck back to where we were last month, which is, what are we going to read for the podcast?
Right.
So I think let's crowdsource this answer.
Okay. So, But Are There Dragons fam? We're not asking you what we should read. We are asking you whether we should continue reading the Fourth Wing series for our next podcast book. Right? Doesn't mean we're going to finish the series, although I feel like at a certain point, once we get going, like if we're 3 books in, we'll probably end up finishing the series. But do we read the next one, or do we not read the next one? And if you help us decide that we're not going to read the next one on the podcast, at that point, Jessica and I will have a little meeting of the minds and figure out what we want to read next. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you enjoyed Fourth Wing, if you had read it before, if you're reading it for the first time with us, if your thoughts about it align with our thoughts or deviate entirely. And if they do, that's totally, totally fine. It was eye-opening. It was really interesting to read just because I knew so many people have read it and it was all over book talk and, whatever. And so I needed to know. And I'm really glad that I do know now.
Yeah. And this was our first time with this format. So here we are.
Here we are.
It was a great intro book for that. But I would love to hear what the But Are There Dragons family have to say.
Same.
And I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay. So let us know on the Discord, in the comments on YouTube, on social media, wherever you want to let us know which book, whether we should continue reading the Fourth Wing, the next book in the Fourth Wing series. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in to our second regular season episode of Season 5 and last episode of Season 5 of But Are There Dragons, brought to you by your hosts Jessica Sadai and Kritter XD. Don't forget to follow us at But Are There Dragons on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and But Dragons Pod, just one T, on X. You can also find your hosts on social media as Kritter XD and Shelf Indulgence. That is it for today. We commend Fourth Wing to Malik.
Bye.